I mean, once you have your own method of learning languages, like the world is your oyster. You can kind of like go anywhere and explore. And who knows, maybe with your world search, you can find a place that truly speaks to you, or maybe just going everywhere is what speaks to you. You know, everybody has their own different interpretation.
And actually, our next question was supposed to be like how your two identities, the Mongolian and the Chinese identity, live side by side. But you kind of
Like I kind of like
talked about it already. Do you ever feel like more Chinese or more Mongolian?
I don't think I'm fully Mongolian or fully Chinese. It really hit me when I started college in Shanghai, which is the modern city in China, and I was suddenly surrounded by mostly Han Chinese students, and I have to speak Mandarin all the time, and that's when I start noticing how different I felt. Like something just didn't translate, especially like I can't fully express myself because some jokes, the way I think, I cannot translate. So I think it's at first it's something that really conflict. Like at home, everything was in Mongolian. We spoke Mongolian, drank like salty milk tea, celebrate our own tradition with our own customs. But at school, everything switched Mandarin, Chinese pet food, different pace, very fast paced. So sometimes I felt stuck in between, not Chinese enough outside, but not Mongolian enough at home. Yeah, it's really complicated, but later I realized it's actually maybe a strength because I can move between both worlds. Now I can see it like choosing more like blending, like finding balance between these two. Yeah, it's a very interesting experience for me.
Fantastic. That's a very unique also experience. Not a lot of people get to have this sort of like back and forth, and it's because at least in my case, when I went to France as well, like I was the Italian guy. Everybody knew that I was Italian. It was very easy for me to tell people that like the difference was there. So I never had any pressure to kind of like live to expectations of other people. I could just freely express my Italianness, even though like I have parents from around the world. Like that's me, that's the Italian. So when I come back home, I'm like, yes, I'm an Italian person. But with time, I also kind of lost a little bit of identity. When I came back from France, back to Italy, or now in Berlin, like whenever I come back to Italy, I feel like tourist in my own house, which isn't like, yeah, it's like every time that someone invites me to go, oh, let's go here, or like let's do this activity, this festival or something, like I feel like, oh, I'm just like your American tourist looking for a place that I'd been in for like 10 to 15 years or 20 years before. Now I feel like I'm not as welcome. Not as welcome, that's not the word, but like I don't feel as connected as it because I have this many like experiences abroad, which don't get me wrong, I love being up all over the world. I love learning about different cultures and different countries, but it does hate you when you come back. There's a lot of people don't have that sort of situation, but to me, very, very heavy.
Do the two cultures, the Chinese and the Mongolian cultures, ever complement each other or do they contradict each other?
I feel it most in my small habits and the way I think. Like in a Mongolian, the inner Mongolian culture is all about freedom and be more flexible, more slower and grounded in the grassland. But Chinese culture, especially the urban culture, especially in cities, is more structured and fast-paced and focused on hierarchy and efficiency and the structure. And so sometimes I feel pulled in different directions. Part of me like I want to go with the flow, but another part wants everything planned. I want more efficient. So, but I think having both make me really adaptable. Sometimes I can stay. Maybe I can stay calm when things are unpredictable, but I also know how to keep up in a very high pressure environment. So I think it's a gift.
Yeah, and I mean, with all of the different like changes in mindset, you also have changes like you have the differences between China and Mongolia for sure. But also, like you said, you also try get your own way with Japan and Korea, and it's like when you were trying to adapt to those cultures, like what first of all, like you mentioned before that you were surprised, like that you found honorifics in the Japanese a little bit difficult, but like what was the thing that surprised you the most when starting to learn Japanese and Korean for the first time?
For the first time, let me. What surprised me most was first the Korean. I think it's how familiar Korean felt. Like the grammar is really similar to Mongolian. So we both use subject, object, verb, word order. So so it clicked pretty quickly for me. Also, Japanese, Korean, Mongolian, they all use a lot of loan words. Like you sometimes you hear something and think like, oh wait, that sounds like English, or maybe it's from Chinese or Russian. Yeah, it actually makes me learning vocabulary is a bit easier and fun. I like the languages, the flexible languages, and they're always growing, changing, growing, kind of like how people adapt to. Yeah. So, but the hardest part is like completely opposite, or hardest part is the honorific. I said before, there there's a lot of emphasis on formal speech and showing respect through specific language rules. In our culture, in our language, we respect elders too, but we don't have such complicated rules about how exactly talk to different people, different social status. It's so weird for me because we don't have something like this in the Mongolian. So sometimes a bit tricky to remember all the levels of politeness. Yeah.
That's crazy because like we also had a similar. I mean, I'm also doing Japanese and that's like a nightmare. But also in some Latin languages, also this happens. We did an episode about Mexico, and we did find out that Mexico kind of has a interesting difference between Spanish and Mexican Spanish, where in Spanish you have different verb ways that are divided between like formal speech or like a casual speech, while in Mexico, since to them at least respect is universal no matter who you are, they kind of like they use the same language amongst everybody. So that's also like this sort of example of like languages that have very different structure when it comes to respect, and some others that are more loose. It's like present everywhere in the world, not only like in Asia, like also Europe as that as well.
There's still the concept. I think the concept is still very different, actually, because they make it a bit easier, like it's there, because when we use the formal version to talk to almost everybody.
Yeah.
And then you have like the other end of the spectrum in Japanese, where you have like many different forms of politeness. So I think that's the harder way then.
Yeah, and also like in Japan, like the honorifics that you use matter a lot. Like in Spanish, it's definitely a lot more flexible. It's not as like severe as in Japan. Like in Japan, it's like basically the entirety of your vocabulary has to change depending on the person that you meet. In Spanish, yeah, there's like formal speech and informal speech, but like not everything in your vocabulary is changing to that person. But there is differences, that's for sure. Like you can even get it even as like easier and easier. So, but like, did learning those languages like Japanese and Korean did also help you appreciate your own culture? Or maybe like there's parts of the Korean culture and Japanese culture that you kind of like related to that wasn't present in Mongolia or China?
I mentioned before, we respect elders, but we don't have such complex speech rules. So